People, Deluded, I'm back again. We might as well speak about some transfer news relating to and concerning Arsenal. Now, like you lot, I'm tired of hearing about Aouar and Partey. Are you bringing them in? If not, can we find some plan B targets? Because the market is getting closer to closing, and I don't think Arsenal have enough in the squad to get top four. Liverpool game highlighted that in a sense of against Liverpool. I think, listen, Liverpool's game plan was amazing. They forced us into mistakes. They're a quality team and all of that. But disregarding Liverpool for a sec, do I feel that it was a thing where we could do everything we could potentially do and Liverpool were just a better team? No, I think we engineered mistakes. I think many players played poor. I think games like that highlight what a good midfield and an average not even a below average midfield can have. I'm not going to dig out Xhaka because Xhaka, for me, I like him in the squad. Games like that highlighted his deficiencies, and that's his first terrible game in a hot minute. El Nene was alright. He stayed fighting. He battled and stuff, but we all know, with all due respect to El Nene, he's quite limited in that regard. He's not necessarily amazing at anything. He's 5 out of 10 at most things, if that. So we need to bring in people. If we're going to bring in Partey, we're going to bring in Partey. I'm not going to speak about Partey too tough because there was hella fans and hella people drawing conclusions because he was on the bench for Atletico Madrid saying his head isn't there. He started yesterday or the day before, I believe. I haven't watched the highlights. Atletico's game, I think João Felix did a madness against Helska, so I can't pronounce it. So what does that mean now? Is he staying? Is he going? You hear talk of Torreira's agent being in Madrid to try and accelerate things. There was late interest from Roma. Is it gonna be two separate deals? Can we get a sort of buy option there? And again, as childish as it sounds, and I know it's not the same, but if they don't give us Partey, why give them Torreira? Because unless you're going to bring in that replacement, if the replacement comes in, by all means, if you want to sell Torreira, sell Torreira. Atletico got the upper hand, but sell Torreira. Again, if Torreira wants to go, he wants to go, but I'm caring about our squad. We've got no one who can be box to box or put a foot in if Torreira does go. So I hope, if Partey isn't going to come and Atletico aren't going to buckle off their asking price, which is his release clause, we need to do other things. We need to have plan B targets. In relation to Aouar, you're hearing a lot, people. You're hearing, him and Arteta have spoken on the phone. Phone calls have taken place. We'll know by Friday. You've heard talk about medicals. There's all sorts of things. Their president, Ulas, is trying to get the top dollar. And you hear by his comments, shouting Emirates, Emirates. The kit sponsor, the way he's acting, it's a bit of a circus now. And I know Lyon have brought in a player in Paquet, I can't say his name, but the Brazilian lad from AC Milan. There's talk of them bringing in a young, is it Palestri? I can't say his name, a young Uruguayan winger. So they're bringing in players. I'm sure you've all seen Memphis Depay said goodbye or something like that to Aouar on Instagram. Let's not read too much into that because Depay is linked with moves away from Barca, from Lyon to Barca. So that might be him. But in relation to Aouar, apparently Jules Laurens of ESPN has said Arsenal and Lyon have continued talks for Aouar. The two clubs are still in negotiations. Lyon are ready to accept around 45 million with bonuses. Arsenal are ready to increase their offer and are optimistic an agreement can be reached, which is crazy. If they're ready to accept 45 million and we can tailor that so they can get their bonuses, why not? Apparently a new quote emerged from Ulas yesterday evening or the day before, where he said, if Nicolas Pepe is worth the price that they paid for him, then Houssem, who is an international player, is worth more than 30 million. And it's not always the same, especially because of how we structured Pepe's payments. And Pepe is also an international player as well. Granted, one plays for Ivory Coast and one plays for France, with all due respect. France are the World Cup winners, so of course that's going to get more sort of clout and whatnot. And obviously the way we structured the payments, if you're like that, I'm pretty sure Arsenal will pay you more over time if you structure these payments where we pay more over time but less up front. I don't blame him because, while I don't see the logic in that, I do. How Aouar's got a bigger standing in the game than Pepe. He's been someone that people have known about since 17. He's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, but he does have an equal or greater stature and dare I say admirers within the game than Pepe. So again, you want top dollar. If they get 50 million euros, depending on how you do it, I think they sell him and whatnot. On the topic of Aouar, he's not going to come here and solve all our problems in the same way Gabriel isn't going to come here and solve all our defensive problems. It's cut down to coaching. Our whole team has to want to defend better, and in Aouar's case, they've got to want to break teams down. He's there to make the difference, but he can't do it alone. for me, he's got a lot of development to do. You know, if you watch Lyon over the last couple of years, definitely last season, which was a tough season, he had a good season. You know, especially against the big games, he turned up. There was the occasional games away from home against lower opposition and whatnot. He was, you know, he make a mistake or miss a chance he should have scored, or lost the ball, or just missing anonymously. You know, what you want to see from Aouar now is develop, playing to that high standard consistently over a year or a season. You know, it's all fun and games doing it in the Champions League. Granted, that's the holy grail, you know, against Man City, but you've got to do that all the time. He's not the finished article, but undoubtedly he's a player that I believe can be developed into someone that's got, and I don't say this often, world-class potential. I want him to stay at Arsenal forever, but we've got to remember potential resale value. He's got the best years in front of him, and for me, he seems like a player that wants to get better. I like the drip videos he does, but one thing I like is Arteta's had been an admirer of him from his Manchester City days, so maybe that's why you've seen, apparently City wanted Xhaka. Arteta said that, you know, Jorginho links were there previously with City. Any coincidence he's linked with Arsenal at a time, and there's been several rules of that from. Now, Arteta probably knows exactly about Aouar, and you know, when you know about a player, when you've wanted him at a previous club, that more likely for me to believe you're going to hear off, because you're going to want to improve the player. You've got plans for him. It's not you're just getting him and freestyling like we did when we signed Ozil. Really, we didn't know what was doing with Ozil. We didn't try to build, for all of Ozil's critics, we didn't try to build a team around Ozil. You played him at 10 sometimes, you played him there on the wide, on the flank sometimes. We never had the runners behind him. You know, I'm not making excuses for Ozil, and I'm not saying Aouar is of the level Ozil was when he joined from Madrid, because he's not. My thing is, we've got to build a team around man. Man have to come into this team as a sort of a piece to the jigsaw. Because you look at Liverpool's team, best example, everybody complements everyone. You know, the front three complement each other. The midfield options, you know, Joe Gomez and Van Dijk know how to do this thing. The fullbacks, they're both of the same ilk. They'll go forward, they can defend, they can cross the ball. You know, Trent's probably just about better than Robertson at crossing, with all due respect. But, you know, Robertson's probably not too far behind assists and whatnot. So everyone has to come to this team to solve a puzzle. What I like as well is Aouar can play in a pivot. So while I want to see us play 4 at the back 9 times out of 10 and be able to play 3 at the back, if you can play in that pivot, it's great. And it also puts pressure on a number of people, because, you know, Xhaka's come in, he looked a bit iffy in the last game. El Nene's in the mix of things. Sabas has come on loan. If you do bring in Partey and Aouar together with Joe Willock, there's competition for places, people. So we'll have to see. Ulas himself also said as well on the topic of Aouar, he said, "We know that there are 3 big clubs interested in him, 2 in the short term, 1 in the long term. Not much has happened. All the clubs can't give us financially what Lyon wants." So again, you know, they want what they want. And what are these 2 clubs? You know, is it loans with options to buy? Is it actual offers? You heard him linked with Juventus and all these other teams. Is he just talking wash to drive up the price and put pressure on Arsenal to conclude this deal? I guess we'll never know. Juninho's had stuff to say as well, people, and again, this is courtesy of Google Translate, so it's not that he can't formulate a sentence, and it's not that I can't either. It's just, you know, things get lost in translation. Now, he said 3 clubs of great importance, two in the short term, 1 in the medium term, are interested in Houssem. These are clubs that have played in the Champions League and who have performed well there. The discussion is difficult because not all clubs can give us commitment, like Barca concerning Memphis Depay in brackets, which is in great difficulty. So now I'm not too sure if, well, Google Translate. So again, I think that's just reiterating Ulas's comments, not exactly Jorginho's. But he said, I think Jorginho actually said now, between now and Monday, some things can happen. But the ideal would be to know on Friday who leaves and who arrives. And they've brought in Paquette without technical moves. There's talk of Depay leaving. There's talk of Aouar leaving. Jeffrey Adley's been linked with Hertha Berlin if he hasn't joined them already. So it's a bit of stick or twist. We heard Friday's the deadline. Now we hear Monday. So this is going to go down to the wire. And I'd like to imagine talks have been placed and things can be done. But truthfully, we'll never know. But he said, like he said, between now and Monday, some things can happen, but the ideal would be to know on Friday who leaves and who arrives. We have to adapt even more than this year. Preparing against Marseille without knowing too much is difficult. He then spoke again, confirming the signing, more or less, of them trying to get the Uruguayan player from I can't say his first name, sorry, so I'm just going to call him Pilistri. I can't say that, 18-year-old lad. So we'll see what happens in the case of Aouar. But again, I hope there's plan B and C targets, because we've taken it down to the wire now. And even if there is plan B targets and so on and so forth, other clubs are going to know you're under pressure now. So you're going to have to pay a bit more. You say, all right, cool, don't buy him then. There's someone else that will buy him. Or we'll just hold on to him till January the minimum. We can come and revisit this. We know that you need 2 midfielders because you've gone after Partey and Aouar. We know you can't move off players because right now, at the moment of making this vid, you've still got Torreira on the books. You've kind of offered out Guendouzi, and there's been interest and there's been loan interest and stuff, but nothing's permanently been rised up. And then it seems to be being used in Arteta's plans, but the devil's advocate might say he was on loan at Besiktas. Is he being used because you want to, or you can't find him a buyer to go with all the other players you've tried to move on? We know you're desperate, and we don't care. If you want the player, pay the money, and that's the rule. That's the territory we are now in now as we keep it going. The only thing that gives me hope in that, Arteta's no idiot. He's been given more transfer responsibility. So if you're in this position, which is your first job, which is one of the hardest jobs post Arsene Wenger, which you know the squad isn't good enough, if you're in terms of transfers, you're gonna kill yourself, but you're gonna kill yourself to get in the players you want. And obviously, we're not in the boardroom. I don't know Arteta, and I'm sure the majority of you don't either. So we don't know what the club is doing, you know. We don't know if, you know, for all we know, Aouar could be, I would love it to be true, but the Aouar signing could be confirmed right now. They could be in a CAF right now sorting it out, but we don't know. So that's one thing as I get hope. I've always said I'll shut my mouth and not offer my full opinions until the window is closed, and I still will do that. But the club isn't going to have a leg to stand on if you don't bring in 2 midfielders. How are you able to do that? I'm not too sure. Apparently Marseille are reportedly in talks with Arsenal over a deal to bring Guendouzi to the club on loan. However, Arsenal want to sell, but Marseille can't afford it. So again, it probably looks like a deal potentially is unlikely for such people. And it's not just English newspapers reporting that. You've got Telefoot and RMC, apologies, saying that the rumour's been squashed, but you've also seen Man United want Maitland-Niles, and the deal on paperwork already 80% done. The transfer should be completed in the next days for 22 million plus add-ons. Now, that wouldn't make sense, especially to sell him on the cheap to Man United. I don't see why they would need him. They've got Wan-Bissaka. They need a left-back, and Maitland's played there, but he isn't going to solve their issues there, in my opinion. So it doesn't make sense. I just think it's a rumour being invented, whether that's late pressure by Arsenal, because by Maitland-Niles advisors, because remember we did hear there's been a U-turn and Maitland is in talks for a new deal eventually, or there's discussions, so maybe that's a bit in mind. You know, maybe he is actually going to move and teams are legitimately talking to him right now and there's being late pressure. We've also got to remember Man United, while Maitland isn't a left back by trade, I know he's played there, they're linked with a left back at Porto. Could this link be coming about to, you know, in relation to that? Could it just be gibberish? You know, a lot of journalists are probably going to rule the end of the transfer window because now they probably have to find some credible stories. You can just make up what's now. You know how much man have probably just got paid off repeating the same Jadon Sancho to Man United, the same previously Werner to Liverpool, this Aouar and Partey to Arsenal. Just keep making up little bits as they go along, and many other recycled stories, people. Declan Rice to Chelsea, whether it happens or not. You know, this is the easy time for journalists to just make things up and get paid and things. And I mean that with no disrespect, because I've got a lot of friends and people that are classed as friends as journalists, but we all know in every industry, even YouTube, you do see a bunch of twats. There are some bad eggs, you know. So it is what it is. It really is what it is in that regard. So we'll have to see. But as the window closes, I'm not going to front. I do become a bit more nervous every day that passes. But like I said, I'm willing to shut my mouth until the window shuts and assess what's happened then. Then, you know, I'm looking at them because we knew the job we needed to do. We knew from last year what we needed to do, especially with moving people on. I can't remember the quote word for word, but did Josh Kroenke not say something along the lines of, we've got Champions League wages with a Europa League squad, or a Europa League squad on Champions League wages? I don't know what it was, but I know you lot know what I'm getting at. So for the last 2 years, more or less, we've known we needed to move certain individuals on. So to not really see any significant outgoings is a disappointment for me. I've seen more collective work, ingoings and outgoings with Mertesacker and the academy lads. You know, they've brought in people at 23s. You know, the Ben Shaves, the Tyreses, the Zach Medleys, the Trey Coyles, and many others have gone out on loan or probably in talks to go out on loan. There's been real streamlined. We've brought in Lewis, Akinola, Dinzainzi, I can't say his name, but the guy we brought from Spurs, centre-half. We've moved forward, and I wanted to see that at Arsenal, because the quicker you bring in, man, the quicker they can gel in with what Arteta wants, and the quicker we have better tools at our disposal to try and make a real meal of getting top 4 people. So we'll have to see what happens, man. But I've got nothing more to add, so I'm going to get out of here. It's always a pleasure. Deluded, I'm out.